Understand this. The contract FIFA brokered for the 2026 World Cup grants a tax exemption that extends well beyond the tournament itself, lasting all the way until the end of 2028, 2 full years after the final whistle has blown. The host nation shoulders the burden of stadium construction, police security, and forfeits tax revenue, only for FIFA to simply depart. This arrangement seems to transcend a typical sports agreement. It is something different. Once you grasp its mechanics, the reality is inescapable. In our exploration today, we will examine how Brazil invested $13.5 billion and ended up with stadiums too expensive to maintain relative to their earnings. We will also uncover why some cities selected as hosts for the 2026 tournament rejected FIFA's proposed deal, and what specific clauses were so alarming they caused these rejections. Furthermore, we will reveal the one crucial statement that FIFA is intensely motivated to prevent host governments from uttering publicly. Everyone is aware that the World Cup generates billions in revenue. What remains largely unexamined, however, is the origin of those billions, their destination, and crucially, who is left quietly shouldering the associated costs long after the media spotlight fades. This is not an exposé on the inherent corruption of football. It delves into the dynamics of use. And observing the World Cup offers perhaps the most unvarnished illustration of this principle globally, the hidden financial burden. Brazil's investment for the 2014 World Cup was an estimated $13.5 billion. The cost for stadiums alone amounted to $3.6 billion. To offer a comparative perspective, Brazil's entire federal budget for education that same year stood at approximately $24 billion. This means that stadium construction alone consumed roughly 15% of the nation's spending on educating all its children. Keep this figure in mind. In contrast, FIFA's revenue for the 2010 World Cup totaled $3.65 billion across the board. A significant portion, $2.4 billion, derived exclusively from television rights. This figure excludes revenue from tickets or merchandise, simply from television rights. Consequently, FIFA's earnings nearly mirrored Brazil's expenditure on concrete and steel, calculated before even a single spectator purchased a drink. This stark imbalance lies at the core of this operational model. FIFA secures lucrative broadcasting deals, sponsorships, licensing agreements, and global commercial rights. The host country, conversely, assumes responsibility for construction debts, ongoing maintenance contracts, and the considerable electricity costs. FIFA arrives projecting a powerful brand. The nation shows up with its treasury, and when the final whistle signals the end of the tournament, FIFA departs with the profits, leaving the host country indefinitely responsible for the stadium. The enduring question remains, why do nations consistently agree to such terms? The explanation is more intricate and more fundamentally human than one might initially assume. Why countries say yes anyway? Countries do not bid for the World Cup in the same way one buys a car. They bid in the way one auditions for a part in a play one has wanted one's entire life. This is not a procurement exercise. This is a bid for legitimacy. Politicians do not make announcements of that magnitude, saying, "We have done all the risk-adjusted modeling." They make announcements of this kind that read, "The world will now finally know who we are." And once that sentence is released in the room, all fiscal responsibility just dies. Every bid cycle, whoever is promising the most gets it. More stadiums, bigger airport terminals, stronger legal guarantees of service and delivery, faster timelines. You dither, someone else promises something more. FIFA does not pressure bidders. The bidding war puts this kind of pressure on countries. Brazil chose to award World Cup venues to a dozen cities, as opposed to 8 or 10 that might make more sense for logistical purposes. That was not a domestic decision-making process. That was competitive escalation. More sites were a stronger promise because that implied more cities would be involved, hence a more palatable and broadly distributed national pride vote, and on paper, a much better bid. The problem does not need a monster. The problem needs only national pride and a bidding rival. By the time they sign on the line, it means they have already outbid their own level of common sense. The point is, no one warned them. Once the tournament concludes, these 12 stadiums still wait. They do not disappear, merely waiting. The white elephant machine. A normal football stadium is designed with a specific and direct question: what do the local citizens require right now? By contrast, a stadium for a World Cup event is designed with a wholly different question: what does FIFA demand over the next month? It might seem to be an inconsequential distinction, however, it is not. Stadiums that are venues of World Cup tournaments are designed to meet international broadcasting standards. That is to say, they have large zones devoted to sponsor advertising, facilities designed to host the media circus, and catering that is world-class for fans who pay top dollar for exclusive viewing areas. They are built for an entire month of peak global exposure that will never again repeat. After the last television camera packs up and moves on, that ongoing expense, electricity, guards, caretakers, debts, does not stop. It continues quietly over a lifetime, and thus it is referred to as a white elephant, splendid to see from afar, but a crippling economic burden to house. In Brazil, the 2014 World Cup resulted in some of the starkest examples on earth. The stadium in the city of Manaus, known as Arena Amazônia, cost upwards of $300 million to erect. Manaus is a city with no professional football club in the first division. The population of Manaus cannot fill the stadium's available seating at a weekend league game, which is far below what is expected at the World Cup, for which there were only 4 matches hosted in the Arena Amazônia before the city became burdened by maintenance costs alone, because it lacked a long-term purpose. The capital, Brasilia, was apparently spending $900,000 per month on the upkeep and maintenance of its Estádio Nacional for post-tournament costs alone. These were not architectural failures, but inherent flaws in the fundamental reason for their existence right from their earliest conception. If a stadium remains empty for almost all of the 40 weeks of the year for up to 10 years, who is the country-level stadium really constructed for? The legal empire nobody voted for. Then here is the part that changes everything when you finally see it. It is not merely a giant building project dropped on the head of a country, a single massive construction enterprise. It is a restructuring of a host economy by way of law. For the bidding process of the 2026 World Cup, FIFA demanded that all governments would be required to agree to host country requirements, including government guarantees. Visa access, work permits, and tax exemptions would need to be issued not merely for FIFA, but also for the FIFA World Cup Corporation, the relevant subsidiaries of FIFA, and all related tournament operations. Now, this line below is where the article truly must force the reader to stop, stare, and reread the words. This protection period was noted as extending to December 31st of 2028. The 2026 World Cup final will be held in the summer of 2026. Those 2 legal protections extended 2 full years beyond the completion of the tournament. Read those 2 lines over, slowly if necessary. The tournament itself will only take a few weeks after all. That economic restructuring around FIFA will take many years. This is no longer about an event with a bit of paperwork. This is about a temporary legal empire, draped in streamers and sold as an honor, where FIFA is the power. FIFA arrives, changes the rules in its favor, pockets the income, and disappears. The host government signs away the powers necessary for FIFA. The host taxpayer continues to operate under those rules for years after the final whistle. There was never a public vote to approve any of that. But the bigger question is that inside of that empire, who gets those protections and who gets left outside? Who gets protected and who does not? The protection hierarchy of the World Cup is simple enough when you spell it out. FIFA itself, protected from taxes, please. FIFA's official sponsors, protected from any competition from similar entities via their exclusivity as commercial rights holders. FIFA broadcasters, guaranteed protection of their commercial investments throughout the entire competition. Local governments, the party that bears the costs of coordination, security, traffic management, and absorption of all related operational challenges of the event. Local taxpayers, asked to be happy and proud that FIFA sponsors, and FIFA broadcasters are tax exempt and enjoy protection, while the taxpayers shoulder every operational cost of the tournament, receive no financial benefit for their contribution, and may never see FIFA or the World Cup happen in their country at all. This is the trade-off, the emotional contract the deal is built upon. It is supposed to be pride in exchange for scrutiny. It is supposed to be national flags and glory replacing civic and national economic and financial accounts. And the protection goes even beyond this. It impacts those on the streets outside of stadium entrances. FIFA utilizes what they term clean zones, essentially legally designated and enforced commercial exclusion areas around stadiums on match days and lead-up days that prohibit unauthorized commercial activities from the surrounding local areas. FIFA argues that this protects its brand integrity from counterfeits, protects FIFA sponsors from commercial threats, and safeguards its brand image as clean. It sounds like a simple matter of protecting a business and its assets until one really reflects on who owns those same streets outside of the stadium that vendors are excluded from, businesses that rely on crowds attending events at these stadiums. Who happens to live in this city, pays taxes in this city, and for those many years may solely survive on game days. FIFA, to continue making tens, sometimes even hundreds of millions in profit through their official sponsor companies, are offered protection from the commercial realities of the region in which they play the games, while the businesses struggling to make a living for themselves within those regions become victims of these protections. Same street, different rules, different power. So if the deal really benefits everyone, why did some cities read the fine print and quietly walk away? The cities that said no in 2022, the Associated Press reported something that deserves more attention than it got. US cities and states were competing hard to land 2026 World Cup matches. Tax breaks, public investments, eliminated sales taxes on tickets. Cities were offering serious money, but buried in that same reporting was a different detail. Some cities dropped out of contention after reviewing FIFA's demands, not after losing a vote, not after public protest, after reading the terms and deciding the answer was no. Think about what that means. These were not cities that did not understand the opportunity. They had full access to the deal, the same information as every city that said yes. They looked at the tax exemptions, the funding requirements, the obligations, and they walked. That contrast is the most honest thing in this entire story. If hosting the World Cup is such an obvious economic win, informed cities would not leave the room, but they did. And the cities that stayed, they are now covering security, infrastructure, and lost tax revenue. Somewhere in a municipal office, someone knows the exact number. They are just not putting it on a banner next to the trophy. The invisible invoice. Nobody hands a host country one single piece of paper that says, here is what this cost you. It does not work that way. The bill arrives in pieces, scattered across departments, years, and budget lines that never share a headline. Stadium construction is the number everyone remembers. It is concrete, it is photographed, it is dramatic. But then there is police overtime for months of security operations, transport planning, road closures, emergency coordination, customs arrangements, government guarantees, fan zones that need managing, public workers pulling double shifts, cleanup that starts before dawn. And then the cost that never gets a press conference, opportunity cost. Every billion redirected toward tournament infrastructure is a billion that did not fix a hospital, a school, a bus route. Those things do not get opening ceremonies. They do not trend globally. They just quietly do not get built. A 2025 analysis by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy calculated that every city projected to host the World Cup in 2026 would not charge sales tax on tickets to watch World Cup matches. So Florida, Georgia, Missouri, big-time revenue hits gone. Just like that, even before the first ball has been kicked. This is a trap in a trap. The benefits are loud and easily noticed. You get full hotels, busy restaurants, an immediate influx of cash, but the costs are quiet, widely spread out, and only discovered once it is way too late. But there is a reason this cycle of spending on the World Cup is almost impossible to end, a reason why some governments actually never intend to break even. The geopolitical product. The real danger in this scenario is not just economic incompetence, it is losing money as a strategy. Instead of hosting the World Cup despite financial risk, some governments host it primarily for what it will afford them: sports washing, using global tournaments to repair their image, enhance soft power, and obtain international acceptance. Ordinary business transactions rely on the question, will this assist our people over the next 10 years? Sports washing logic instead asks, will this influence global opinion of us in a month? These two questions are different. They require contrasting decision making. And FIFA has become adept at marketing the same competition to distinct clients with contrasting selling points. For democratic nations, the FIFA pitch centers on tourism and new infrastructure. These are the languages of spreadsheets and commerce. For developing countries, it emphasizes arrival and being taken seriously on the world stage. To autocratic rulers, it offers something more: a month in the spotlight that distracts from domestic difficulties. Politicians, in turn, gain a legacy in the form of a famous photograph, speech, and the association of their names with momentous events. For football fans, however, it means only magic, pure and simple, identical tournament, entirely different product for each audience in the room. Because even clear evidence cannot break the loop, because the advertised product was identity, which, unlike financial returns, does not reply to numbers. But there is one final component of this mechanism, and this is why the entire scheme is nearly impervious to challenge: how the beautiful part protects the ugly part. The most brilliant and most depressing element of the system's persistence is that the beautiful part provides a shield for the ugly part. Fans rally in defense of the World Cup because their emotion is authentic, stemming from spectacular goals, stirring national anthems, and youngsters watching their country compete on the global stage. No one should diminish these feelings. They are real and significant. Politicians support the expenditure because they were physically present at the time of the event, sensing a historic aura that engulfed them. FIFA maintains the current arrangement because the system is functioning, and such structures generally resist self-correction. Meanwhile, the taxpayer ends up as the scapegoat, with basic financial inquiries brushed aside as a lack of understanding or appreciation for the magic. However, a hypothetical scenario offers insight into why this system persists. If any commercial company demanded that a city build it a venue, handle its security needs, change local laws to favor it, support its sponsors, waive local taxes, and assume responsibility for long-term maintenance after departing, the city would surely reject it. But if you add a ball, a trophy, and the national anthem into the mix, suddenly it is destiny, it is honor. Saying no suddenly seems unpatriotic. This is not a coincidental development, it is deliberate construction. The magic is not an incidental aspect of the World Cup. It is an essential pillar. It supports the extraordinary terms that no typical business could impose, and makes them appear to be concessions that demand defense. The sentence FIFA fears most. So here is the question nobody in FIFA HQ wants host nations to ask out loud. What if we do not actually need the World Cup as badly as it needs us? Because FIFA does not have a tournament without cities. It has no spectacle without public roads, public police, public airports, public workers. The magic is built entirely on public infrastructure. Every camera angle, every opening ceremony, every golden moment, this is all publicly paid for. That means the use can flow both ways. Only countries need to be willing to use it, and using it begins prior to the contract signing ceremony, not after the inevitable hangover. This starts with publishing all the full terms of the guarantee to the public before it can say yes. It ends with voters seeing exactly what tax exemptions, sponsor zones, and security obligations come attached to the deal before it is accepted as a national celebration. It allows governments to choose to treat their lost bids as a strategic position instead of as an embarrassing defeat, because the smartest political move in any room might just be walking out the door when the terms are bad. A move to multi-nation hosting is one small structural break in the current arrangement. By splitting costs, by using existing stadium capacities, by ceasing to require every country to have 4 weeks to present proof of itself to the world. It is hardly a revolution, but it may represent the moment when a critical number of the relevant players begin to ask about the price attached to these concessions. FIFA will be happy to try to sell a dream of its tournament to any country in the world. It is not, however, able to sell the tournament without any of the workers who stage it. That is the one sentence FIFA fears the most. It is not protesters, it is not economists, it is not bad headlines. Simply a country which quietly, reasonably assesses the terms and says no. The stadiums, the loans, and these white elephants are the visible, if often unsightly, side of the coin that FIFA begrudgingly recognizes and even defends. But the things we turn to in this section are the things FIFA prefers you never see in a policy document. Okay, just so we make sure we have what we have reviewed, it is really 3 main issues. Issue 1. the stadium trap, which is basically the idea that these mega projects are built to FIFA's schedule, and the bill for this public infrastructure falls on the host country for the next 50 or more years. Issue 2. The legal structure. This vast architecture of tax exemptions, sterile zones, protection of sponsorship rights, that means that the nation's economy is restructured for private purposes around this once-in-a-while tournament. Issue 3. The exploitation of prestige. And I say prestige, but that is basically another way of saying pride. And the reason it works is FIFA is not actually selling you anything physical. It is selling you the feeling of having arrived. And if you can see through these 3 layers of illusion, you look at the bargain that is offered and realize that it looks different from the one that you have accepted. And in closing, if this particular video changed your view of what the World Cup meant, or perhaps any large-scale events, subscribe as we continue. Because in the next video, we will be diving into Qatar 2022 and what specifically about the financial underpinnings of that World Cup you might find really surprising. They follow this general pattern, of course, but with higher stakes, some of the numbers are literally unbelievable. I'll see you there. Subscribe